And every day that you live, let's say in the busyness and you ignore the messages, it's going to come at you again tomorrow. If we want to be wise about our time and our experience and be in the present moment, then we have to really consciously live there. Get me right in the middle of work. I don't think I'm often there. Junior year, I decided to go to Asia. I think the whole class at BC, nobody went to Asia. I was the only one that went to Asia. So went to Hong Kong, did a semester abroad, had a great time, did a summer internship as well, working for the American Chamber of Commerce, selling ads for one of their books. And I decided I should really come back because I spoke the language. I had a different asset. I had a different differentiation, and when I graduated, there wasn't a lot of, I graduated in 92. The US economy wasn't that great. And so I decided to, when I graduated, sent, I think 125 resumes out and I got one reply. And that company hired me to go back to Beijing. And so after college, I went back to Beijing to work in the real estate field.
Okay. And so tell me about that. What was calling you there? What was exciting to you about that?
About Beijing?
Well, Beijing and real estate, or why did you make that decision?
Well, like I said, I did the semester abroad, and it was really where my differentiation was. Spoke the language, and China was growing, and this is shortly after Tiananmen Square. So there's a lot more opportunities there than in the U.S. at the time. So I did.
And how was that experience? Was that a good one? Or tell me about kind of what happens next.
Sure. It was good at first. I was the typical kind of kid out of college, have a very idealistic of the world. So I felt, if I did well at my job, I didn't have to kiss butt, and I could just, be fine. And and I think that's very common for a newly grad. And so I did good. I was in the sales and marketing for a real estate property that was close to the airport in Beijing, and so did well. And but again, I didn't know the politics of things, politics of the company. So I was actually fired then from my job, and that was, I think, a year into the job, and they fired me pretty disgruntledly. I was very disgruntled about it. They didn't do a good job of how they, I guess, fired me. And
why did they fire you?
Like I said, I don't think I played politics very well. It wasn't because of the results of my sale, because I was in sales and marketing. I did a great job.
Meaning like you weren't like kissing enough butt, or like what?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. It was a Hong Kong-based real estate company. It's very political, and you had to kiss the right ass. And this is, again, back in the 90s, right? And there's not a lot of, and you're in Asia and you're in Hong Kong, and I guess that's how it was for this particular company.
Okay.
So then I went out and I competed against them, and I started my own real estate company. And then it was successful because I knew a lot of the owners of this real estate project, and I expanded beyond other real estate projects. So I started a company kind of like an HER agency, and I met people like yourself, or the developers, or the individual owners of the apartments, and I did a lot of the leasing and sales for expats that are living in Beijing. I think I made $60,000 for the first 3 months. And I was 22 at the time. So it was exhilarating at the time. And also coming from, no money as a child, as a person. Again, I felt very, very kind of like on a high, And I made a lot of mistakes. Like was not nice to one of my staff, and I opened her mail, and we had a fist fight in Beijing on the streets of Beijing, and so that was not a smart move. So yeah, I learned a lot of mistakes during that time.
You don't seem like a fist fighter to me, but this is a different time.
Different time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Different time. So no, I've learned a lot during that time.
I bet.
Good and bad things. Yeah.
Well, I actually, it's funny. I was with a friend of mine the other day. He was talking about having to make payroll on his credit card, back in the early 2000s, and calling, the 1-800 number to get the limit moved up just so he could make the payroll. And, a lot of people, I think, in the entrepreneurial world don't talk about those kinds of things, that you get fired, or, you end up in a fist fight with a colleague. I mean, you open someone's mail. I mean, we do things. In fact, I actually ran into somebody earlier in the week at a Cavaliers basketball game that I used to do business with. And I was just thinking back, it's, been a decade. I hadn't seen the guy in 10 years, and was thinking back to like some of the arguments that we got in, and probably some of the ways that I opened my mouth and, yelled out of, anger, at each other. Because, I was at a different spot in my life, and I didn't know how to control those emotions, or I was afraid that it wasn't going to work, or I maybe, even, I don't know, thought I knew better or something, and it's all real and true, and part of what happened, and it's not as uncommon when you're in this either stage in life, or you're, feeling pressures of, trying to be successful, make money, get a business to work, whatever it might be. It happens. People don't really want to talk about it because they're ashamed, or it's, sort of frowned upon. But, I like, just how open you were about sharing those things. It's very normal. We just don't talk about it that much.
Yeah, I think I've always been pretty, along the way, I've gotten into meditation. I know that's one of the connections that we have, and just a lot more self-awareness about myself. And I think it is important to be authentic and to be real, because I think it's freeing, first of all, and it's hopefully better understanding and better in terms of improvements, maybe, or in terms of just I think it's a lot easier to be authentic than to hide something, and then you got to figure out what you hide, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I do find those stories of successful people where they started with $5 and then now they're $50 million. So what happened along the way, like you said? So yeah, there's a lot of bumps along the way for at least my journey, and I presume for most people. I think you learn through your mistakes, right? You don't learn a lot through your success times.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, hopefully you do. That's the thing, right? And it's not like a guarantee that, you can look back and say, I've changed, right? You have to actually do that work. And I'm curious about kind of the work that you've done. I don't want to shortcut anything else that's important in that journey, between that time to whatever is most important next. But I am curious, you talked about meditation, you talked about, doing this work, becoming, more aware, self-aware. Just kind of curious to hear how that comes into your life.
Yeah, I mean, like you often use the word curious, right? I think curiosity is really huge in this journey. So, I was blessed again with the business, and then I met my husband in China, and then we both moved back to Columbus. He's from Columbus, and along the way, I've developed this eye condition called glaucoma. And it's a eye condition where, if it's not managed well, you could lose your sight. So there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of loss of control. There's a lot of loss of sight, which is, I think, a very scary thing.
Mm.
And along the way, when I moved back to the States, I realized that I had a lot of financial success, but I wasn't a very happy person.
Mm-hmm.
And we got much more involved in our church, in the church that we belong to now. It's called Dwell. It used to be called Xenos, and it's a Christian-based church. And to me, there was then a better understanding of how things connected to each other from the people that were in my life that I said earlier
Mm-hmm.
that touched me. Things that, you couldn't explain because it is faith,
Mm-hmm.
So, and also I wanted to not be so anxious. And so I developed the meditation practice. I took a class at Ohio Health. It's based on John Kabat-Zinn.
Mm-hmm.
And then John and I also took the class together. And I belong to a Sangha group right now, which is a group of people that meditate together, and we share kind of with each other our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a practice. It is a daily work.
Mm-hmm.
It is a often, minute by minute work. Like I'm sitting here, I could feel whether I'm tense or tight, and I can try to breathe into that,
Mm-hmm.
and so, and I've done a lot of either John Kabat-Zinn's material or other materials that really has given me a lot of insights.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a matter of then bringing these insights out when you're in the midst of, complexity or turmoil or difficulties.
Yeah. 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 I find it to be, and I'm kind of wanting to hear more about that, because I think it'd be helpful for you to clarify how you use your practice in your life.
Hmm.
Um, because I think sometimes people don't understand how it becomes embodied in who you are so that you have access to it. And it's not like I'm going to go into my pocket or on my phone and pull out this tool and read something to remind me of how to be,
Hmm.
right? It's more of a practice of that becoming, who you are. And even when you lose it, it's there, and it sort of finds its way back. Um, that's been my experience, but maybe you could elaborate a little bit on, how it goes for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the many experiences I've experienced, from being an entrepreneur and then moving here, also being an entrepreneur, and I made lots of mistakes along the way here as well. You face things, and you search for things, and so my faith has really taught me a lot about we're not in control, and same with meditation has taught me that. And so for me, the practice is I try to do a regular practice, so that's pretty important. And
Regular being.
regular being like ideally once a day,
Mhm,
at least 10-15 minutes
mhm,
um, on the cushion, or you know Tuesday nights we have our Sangha group. Or Thursday nights we have our church group. So I think the community and the regularity of the practice, and then I've been blessed that I pick it up pretty quick. I really sense it. I feel it, and I
mhm,
can really channel my breath in the way that maybe it's a six direction breath, or maybe it's a breath coming in from the head, or and I'm pretty good at feeling then what I'm feeling right
mhm,
now. So that's a practice, regular practice, and journaling,
mhm,
putting down on paper some of the epiphanies that come to us, maybe when we have silence, when we have breath, when then, God speaks to us, that then I jot that down.
mhm,
So like one recently is, I'm 53 this year, and I just realized that I might not have as much time, certainly not as much time in the next phase of my life. And I really want to make a difference. Um, so I think, stuff like that, I think you have to really hear those thoughts and you really have to internalize them and really not let the busyness of the day take that over.
Yeah. Boy, is that true. I think that is one of the benefits of kind of three things that you've touched on, which I'm feeling as well, at this stage in life. But the meditation certainly, I think, moves energy out that allows you to kind of be more aware and kind of see life in that way, um, and your life experience up until this point, really does shape you. Hopefully, and maybe those two things really go hand in hand. That you then can kind of see how you've landed in this place, and then just the age itself, I think, sort of forces you, especially as you see things happen around you
Mhm.
or to you, right? Your experience with glaucoma, or if you've had, friends that experience tragedy or have any loss in your own life, you start to really um, be forced to look at, the period of time that remains, whatever that is, and what you want to do with it. Now, I think it's I don't know, like, the percentages, but it seems like most people don't want to look at any of those things, and it's too hard.
Mhm.
And consequently, even in my own life, I can say sometimes it's easier to be busy. It's easier to not, stop and, look in the mirror and ask tough questions.
Mm.
Um, so I want to hear more about, kind of now that you've landed in this place, with these tools, this faith, these practices, this experience in life. Now what? Tell me more about kind of where you are now and what you're focused on today.
Yeah, I mean, I think with these realization, for example, my age, I can't change that, and what I've already understand, I can't change that. And every day that you live, let's say, in the busyness and you ignore the messages, it's gonna come at you again tomorrow. And so, um, if we want to be wise about our time and our experience and be in the present moment, then we have to really consciously live there. And I could say that right now sitting here because I am in the present moment, but get me right in the middle of work, I don't think I'm often there. And that's really what I would love to practice more. I'm blessed to have a great business. We work with Asia and contract manufacturing. I have a great team, but I lose my cool,
Mhm.
sometimes. Um, and I think I'm caught in that emotion
Mhm.
rush, and I'm not, um, mindful. And even though I do these practices, so there's no like guilt or blame for myself, but it's just an acknowledgement, and
Mhm.
that's what it is.
Mhm.
And to continue to practice and and have others who support you in that journey, like other fellow believers or practitioners. And so I'm thankful that, one, I have a small little scholarship fund. I get to interview kids that are interested in applying, and they're similar. They are early immigrants from a difficult childhood, difficult income level, and I get to make a little difference. My business, I hope one day to make it an employee-owned business. I don't look at it as like I need to exit with a private equity and get lots of return. I don't think that's the legacy I want to leave behind. I want to leave behind where I want to make a difference in people's lives.